Hey guys, Gaming Off the Grid here. Do you remember these bad boys? Video game magazines. Today we are going to take a look back at this piece of history that is no longer with us. With the death of print media, it also took video game magazines along with it. What are we drinking today?
Today we're drinking Oreoja by Iowa Brewing Company. It's a Baltic porter brewed with chocolate sandwich cookies.
Alright, you know the drill. Make sure you hit that subscribe button and ring that bell icon so you never miss an upload. And sit back, relax, pour yourself a beer if you care to, and let's take a look at why video gaming will never be the same without the good old video game magazine.
Nerd. Keep gaming, keep drinking, and keep gaming off the grid.
We're not sure how many of you out there have a love for video game magazines, but they mean a lot to us. Back in the 90s, early 2000s, I feel like a lot of cultural impact happened through magazines, not only with music magazines, skating magazines, but also video game magazines.
Yeah, they were huge back in the day, and that's how you learned about just things in general. Like, if you got a video game magazine, you learned about other games, you learned how to beat games, you learned about freaking other things that weren't video game related with ads, you know?
Yeah. I've always thought that print media is like a time capsule.
Oh, absolutely.
So when we were shooting the intro, you were going through and you're like, oh, Smash Mouth CD. There was like a CD order form.
Yeah.
And it was advertising the Smash Mouth
in
record.
a video game magazine. Like, it was just so cool. And I'm flipping through this one right now, the Super Castlevania 4 one. There's a full-on Zelda cartoon in the middle of the magazine. That is that's awesome.
And the cool thing about, these magazines that I always loved was you got so much different type of content, whether it was Nintendo Power, PlayStation Magazine, Xbox Magazine, Game Informer, Game Pro. A lot of times you kind of had a few different formats. You had your previews for games.
Yes.
These were to get you hyped, to get you amped. Maybe it'd be a game that is just under development, and sometimes they wouldn't even come to fruition.
Yeah, that's crazy. There would be an ad in a magazine, and you'd be like, I'm so excited, and then that game never comes out.
So you're like, what happened?
Yeah, where'd that game go?
You'd get your reviews, so it's like, okay, this game's out. Should I pick it up? What did they think about it? They could have hyped it up in the preview. The review says it's dog shit. There was also your walkthroughs, your codes, and your cheats, those types of things, which were really cool because a lot of times those would come out for either newer games or games that have been out for just a little bit but were more difficult. So, you'd seen the review, then you get the walkthrough in a subsequent release. And then there was just always some quirky articles and stuff like that where they would just dig into some random video game topics, and then we've already kind of touched on it a little bit, but then the advertisements. I go through these and see a Game Boy Pocket or the Game Boy Color and all the colors. And
don't forget that video game magazines used to have demos. I know Nintendo Power didn't do it, but Xbox, PlayStation, man, it was so cool they would include demo discs.
It was just a nice tasty nug to get that demo disc. And
refill?
There is something as we migrate out. I think it's maybe a bigger issue. Like, obviously video game magazines mean the world to us, and that's going to be the heart of this episode. But the death of print media, what does that mean and what does it take with it? I just think that historical capturing, like you look across in the magazine we have on display, it's got Snake, it's a Game Pro magazine. They covered a wide variety of console gaming. Spyro the Dragon, Castlevania 64, Crash Bandicoot Warped, and Colony Wars. those games are like the featured games, and Metal Gear Solid, and it kind of just takes you back. What was out at the time. And it's like, that's a trip back to, 1998. That's really cool.
Crazy. And it's so cool because looking back, I know about most of these games, but Colony Wars, I don't know what that is. But now I'm kind of curious because it's a highlighted game,
And I think the culture around the games, I know it's been a lot of fun, like the retro Nintendo stuff that I've grown up with. So you kind of jumped into the Nintendo at the 64 time frame, right? But going back and showing you ads in Nintendo Power, I was like, man, this is like what the Game Boy was like telling us, and that type of stuff. I think you get so much more out of that. Now, I'm just as guilty as anybody else, and probably you as well. I like the internet. I like to be able to look up a game review like that.
The internet is awesome, but it's not as cool as someone like this.
Yeah.
Like, say you're trying to beat Super Castlevania 4, and you open the magazine to the guide, and you follow it.
Yeah.
On the internet, it's just not the same because you watch a YouTube video, there's dumb narration. Oh, wait. That's what we do. Never mind. YouTube's awesome. But it's just so cool. It's laying on the ground with a magazine in front of you trying to beat a game or just trying
to... Or beat your meat for that.
Yeah. Dude, look at this.
Yeah.
That's in the magazine.
The Rocketeer, baby.
That's so cool.
Yeah.
Nothing will ever be as cool as this, and the internet is awesome, but I feel like it's also a rabbit hole. You can go down all these different places, and there's so much information.
I think
it's overwhelming.
I think there's some spillover in knowledge that you get when looking through print media. So I remember this really standing out to me in college when we had to do a few theses, and we could not use the internet for research. And you had to document all your research, and it had to be from published articles, newspapers, books, etc. I remember going to the library in the town I was living in at the time and going through these old newspapers from the early 1900s and seeing what the price of flour was at the local grocery store.
Cool.
And
it doesn't have to do with what you're looking up, but but
it's got that cultural spillover where it's like, man, you're back in that time and you're back in that moment. I don't think people are going to get that. Actually, I know they're not, from browsing for a game review, 20 years from now. I use the analogy. I was like, dude, if we started this channel, let's say our age gap was the same 20 years from now, and I was trying to show you what it was like to play the PS4.
Which we love the PS4.
Yeah, but what do I have to really take you through the culture and the time
like
of it?
What was going on during the PlayStation 4?
We don't have much documentation of it, and that's where print media, I miss it. And I get why it's going away. It's kind of archaic.
Yeah, and it's expensive.
Yep.
I love physical media, and it's so cool. It's so fascinating because you can just spend hours flipping through them, reading about them,
and take a trip back.
It's so cool. And also, like, back in the day, you used to get these things and cut out the posters and hang it on your wall, and it was just so cool. We have posters from Nintendo Powers hung up in the game room, and it just takes us back.
There were things that you just maybe would have never figured out. Some kid picked up this Nintendo Power and's like, wait a minute, how do I get the mascots in NBA Jam?
Yeah, that's a thing. That's an option.
Yeah, and you just get so overtaken. I mean, look at this ad on the back. Tell me that does not make you want to play Super Nintendo.
Oh, dude, one thing I do want to bring up too with the physical media and the magazines is not only is just it's so cool to look back, but the artwork that went into all this stuff. Like, this image isn't from a game. This is Simon Belmont, but someone made and designed this, and the art and the time it took into all the stuff that's into this is so cool, so fascinating, and it makes me kind of wish that I was alive back then, because it'd be so cool to write for a video game magazine.
Yeah, so growing up, my memory, and I don't know, I'm guessing you've probably seen a lot of Game Informers, if I had to guess, because that was really popular during your time. Nintendo Power, I wasn't able to get the subscription to something like that, but I did have some friends that would have them laying around. The one, though, that I really remember and I had a lot of time with was GamePro. And not because I had a subscription. Our library at school had these.
Oh, wow.
I would get these from there every single time the new issue would come out. I would stick it inside my textbooks.
And
I would, a lot of times it was weird. I read my textbooks sitting up on the desk like this. I don't know why.
Just to hide it.
Yeah. So much of my gaming knowledge. I mean, you know where it drops off, right around that 0203 mark.
Do you smell what the Rock is cooking?
But prior to that, I'm like an encyclopedia.
Yeah,
it's just like,
he knows everything.
It's because I read every issue from probably 3rd grade through high school. I was reading every freaking issue of these.
That's crazy.
And, you'd only get one a month. And then sometimes, other kids would check them out, so you maybe wouldn't get the new one right away.
Miss it.
So you would comb through. I'd be reading about games that I never did want to play. I never will play, but I still was getting the knowledge in that way of covering things. And I think this had more of an impact on me than I will ever even realize. And at the time, I had no idea.
Yeah, it was just something
we
you
would be
did.
doing something like this.
Dude, it's so cool. I never had video game magazines growing up, but I remember one time I was way into Star Wars. My uncle gave me an entire stack of his old Star Wars magazines. Like, Star Wars had their own magazine, and it was so cool.
Yeah.
Flipping through, learning about the behind the scenes, the craziness. I learned how they made lightsabers. Like, it's just so cool. I know it's not possible, but it's just so cool, like, how they did it.
Yeah.
And speaking of behind the scenes, I was flipping through one of these earlier. I saw a behind the scenes picture of Borderlands 2. One of my favorite video games of all time.
Yep.
And I saw a behind the scenes green screen shot of the video game. Like, that's so cool to see.
Man, so like this CD advertisement, Limp Bizkit's $3 bill, y'all. That's what they're pumping.
It's in a
'98,
game, bro.
baby. Yeah. I spent a lot of time with Game Informer too, which I've got one of them here. There was something, and I can't remember exactly what it was with GameStop, where you could do some sort of membership that was relatively cheap, and you'd get a year subscription to this. So this, through my college years, I was getting a lot of my gaming information, late high school through college. I had probably every Game Informer for probably a 3 to 4 year span. And that's how, because I wasn't playing a ton of new games at the time. I was kind of that kid in school that was still playing a lot of retro stuff. Yeah. I did have my PS2, but I had my Super Nintendo and my NES with me. But I still was keeping my pulse on what was going on, and these allowed that to happen. And I still would much rather, and I'm probably, I don't know, we might be weird, but I would much rather go through one of these and scroll through IGN's website or something
Oh, yeah,
like that.
that's because it just isn't the same, and I feel like it's just text on a screen. You don't really care.
Yeah.
When you flip through a magazine, I feel like you care, and you're more delicate with it, because it's older, and it's just so cool to look back.
Something different about it, you know.
Tangible,
like
yeah.
a book, right? I think we're probably in the same boat. I don't know that I could read a book on a tablet.
No.
You know, or what the hell's Amazon's thing of Kindle?
I would
do
get too
that.
distracted, I feel like, because it's just not... It's just like a, you know?
Yeah, I just like having a real book. And, you know, I think, you know, big picture, this is maybe digging a little deeper than we need to, but I do worry, you know, with print media going away, that maybe this era we're approaching, it's not going to be documented very, very well. You know, because that book you just downloaded, and how are you going to pass it along to your kids and have them read it, or your grandkids? And what happens,
and
you know?
what happens when the servers go down,
Yeah.
or like the internet crashes, or I know we're just saying what ifs right now, but like that stuff could be
No,
gone.
it's a real thing, you know. I mean, you can walk into any public library right now. Maybe they won't be able to keep having the funding to be open and, you know, read A Catcher in the Rye, you know, some iconic books that need to be read. What are we going to have to look back at, you know? I don't know. We love our gaming magazines, and I think it's a time where they fell off, where I don't know that gaming will ever be the same. There's some other topics we're going to cover about that, but really the rise of the internet changed a lot, and I think it might have been a hard line of where you may never ever be able to consider the stuff after that fact retro gaming, but we'll cover that in another episode.
Yeah. Let's talk about this beer because holy crap.
Yeah, fantastic. So this isn't a stout. This is a porter,
Yes.
which typically on the spectrum, porters are kind of maybe a notch under as far as an aggressive standpoint.
Yes.
But they're still rich, robust. It's a dark beer. Cookies and cream. This is by Iowa Brewing. So if you remember, I don't know if you follow the channel or not, but if you do, we covered a beer a while back called David Heffyhoff, which was a great Hefeweizen by the same brewery. So when we seen this, we're like, dude, we got to try these guys. They're doing something right. This beer is fantastic. It's very creamy.
Oh, it's so creamy.
I don't get as much of the chocolate, I don't feel like, as I do like that really sweet cream aspect in
Yes,
this
and
beer.
that's what I like about Oreos. I don't like the 2 cookies. I actually don't like Oreos at all.
You just like the frosting.
Yeah, I just like the frosting, dude. I know I already said I don't like Oreos and people hated on that. But, dude, this is a beer called the Oreoja.
Yeah.
It's based on Oreos. So I was like, I'm not going to like this. But this is incredible, dude. We've drank so much of this beer.
Yeah.
Leading up to filming of this. It's so good, so creamy, and I feel like it's a pretty simple beer that a lot of people would enjoy.
I do. I think so. But it's so weird to me how dark it is, and the taste that I'm pulling out is the cream.
Yeah.
That is, you know, there's a little bit of chocolate there, but this tastes like a double or triple stuffed Oreo as opposed to, you know, a standard Oreo cookie, because the cream really comes through. Iowa Brewing, man, we are lucky to have them in our state. This is the second beer that we have had from them that I would say is top of the line.
Yes.
Top of the heap. David Heffyhoff in this, and this is a fantastic
One of my
beer.
favorite things is, you know, it obviously looks like an Oreo thing, and you know how Oreo says Milk's favorite cookie? This says Mike's favorite cookie beer.
Yeah.
In the same font. When I first read it, I thought it said Milk's favorite cookie beer, but it's Mike's, and I thought that was so
must
funny.
be one of the owners or brewers or something like that, but fantastic job by these guys. Folks, in the comment section below, tell us your memories of print media, more in particular, video game magazines. These were the conduit, these were the key. You know, the kids on the playground talking about how to beat games. They had some video game magazines at home, and they were taking advantage of it. It's just an art form that we're never going to see again. So it's just kind of a unique thing. What do we got there? A little
WCW versus NWO.
Revenge, yeah.
Dude. And
Flock You, it's showing Raven, the Ravens flock. Oh my
Dude, it's
gosh.
so cool. And this is just a sneak preview.
Yeah.
Like, the game's not even out yet at this point.
You
Like,
used to
that's
get so
cool.
fired up from games for this. The previews, the inserts. I mean, we could go on and on. This is kind of a discussion episode because it's kind of like, when you think about it, it gets kind of like sad. Like, man, we'll never be there again.
Dude, I keep seeing ads for things I've never even heard of.
Madden
Like, I
99.
saw an ad in one of these magazines for a PlayStation glove.
Yeah, the
What's a PlayStation glove?
Yeah, it's...
I want one now, but too
Yeah.
bad the number doesn't work anymore.
I did dislike Game Pro as much as I read the magazine. I didn't care for their rating system. I thought it was a little too... didn't have enough of a scale. But
okay.
Anywho. But we're going to wrap things up, guys. We always appreciate you tuning in, subscribing to the channel. Don't forget to drop your memories about gaming magazines in the comment section below. We'll see you next time, right here on Gaming Off the Grid. We got to go read our gaming magazines.
Yep. cut out whatever you thought was cool and put it on the wall. Like, that's so awesome.
Let's make you point again. Hey guys, Scheming Off the Grid here. Oh, what am I gonna say?
Smash Mouth.
Nice. Nice, dude. Hey guys, Smash Mouth. Hey guys, Scheming Off the Grid here. We want to take a look back and ask you guys, do you guys remember these things?
Yeah.
Video game magazines, modern tech magazines. I said, okay. Cheers to beers. Oh man, that's fucking good. We're not sure if those of you watching have an affection